Hi, I'm Paul Wadden, and I'm really happy to be teaching at Juntendo in Fila. I want to talk to you a little bit more specifically about some of the things we emphasize in our English program. Okay. First of all, just a quick review of our overall goal. We really emphasize English for global citizenship, and the purpose is really to improve our understanding of current global issues by using English as a global language and as a global citizen. You probably know that English is really spoken as a global language all around the world. It's not just the native language of Americans or the native language of British people, but in fact, it's really the common medium of communication among many cultures and many peoples in Asia, in Africa, and even in Europe. So that's really our emphasis on English. More specifically, we have some particular objectives. One is to become familiar with authentic materials. What this means is that in our English program, you will be listening to actual academic lectures, and you will be reading actual academic texts. And of course, the purpose is to improve your academic skills and fluency. So this means practice at writing not only English for communication, but also essays. And it also means not just talking, for example, to have conversations, but to develop the ability to give presentations also. One rather special thing in Fila is that we also give you the chance to improve your Toefl score. Let me say a more particular word about Toefl, all right? So, first of all, you'll be able to take the Toefl several times over your 2 years here, and that will give you a chance in a global measure to show your language ability and also to see your progress. You probably know that Toefl is accepted very widely around the world. More than 11,000 universities use it as a standard, and that's in over 150 countries, including not only North America, but Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and in other countries in Europe and Asia. All right. Our instruction, as Imai Sensei and as Nomura Sensei explained, really revolves around a module system. So we look at different areas of liberal studies. For example, inbound tourism, washoku, peace and conflict, gender, and others. All right. Let me say a few words about the structure of a lecture in English. Now, this is true for the Toefl exam, and of course, it's true for academic lectures in English at universities all over the world. A lecture is structured fairly simply. First of all, an introduction, a body with several points, and for the Toefl, 4 questions. Let me focus more specifically on it. In a moment, I'm going to give a brief academic lecture as an example. The introduction focuses on the main topic or purpose of the lecture. This is almost always true in a formal English academic lecture. The very beginning will let you know what the speaker is focusing on, what the main point is, and what the purpose of the talk is. In the talk that I'm going to give, the main point is how equal rights for women developed around the world. Okay. Next, there will be 3 or 4 or 5 supporting points to the talk. In the lecture that I'm going to give, point 1 is going to focus on the establishment of the United Nations in 1945, and to support that point, there will be a quotation from the UN Charter. The next point, point number 2, will refer to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1946, and it will support that point with a quotation from the very first article, the first point of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In addition, it will make a comment on the original language which referred to men, and the final version which referred to men and women. Point number 3 in the body of the Toefl lecture is going to refer to the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And it will describe some of the 30 specific points in the talk. All right, so here is the let me give the model lecture, okay? Now, since you know the structure in advance, even though you don't understand everything, it should be easier for you to understand the content of the lecture. So let's imagine this is a class and I'm giving the lecture. And by the way, this is very similar to a lecture that would appear in the TOEFL exam. Today, I'd like to talk about how equal rights for women have been established around the world, at least in principle, if not always in practice. One amazing thing I find in my classes is that students don't know how relatively recent the idea of equal rights for women actually is. The first effort to get international equal rights for women occurred with the establishment of the United Nations in June 1945. That's only about 75 years ago. The introduction to the Charter of the United Nations states that one of the UN's major goals is, let me quote, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women. That was an astonishing statement for the time. The next step forward came just 3 years later in 1948, when the newly established United Nations adopted its Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Okay? The Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. At the very beginning, the first article, it states, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. The important phrase, human beings, obviously includes both men and women. However, the original draft of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights instead stated, all men are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Women were left out of the language. The final and the strongest point in the establishment of the principle of equal rights for women came in 1979, around 40 years ago, with the acceptance of what is called the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. This global convention is much more specific than the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It consists of an introduction and then 30 specific articles or points that explicitly address a wide range of women's rights in education, in health, employment, politics, and many other areas. These include the right of women to choose a marriage partner, to have or not have children, and the right to be paid equally for their work. It also sets up a plan for all nations to achieve these goals. So that's a very typical TOEFL lecture, and it's also the lecture that our teaching in FILA will really help you build the ability to understand. The question that we want to ask is, what are your thoughts? How far have women come in Japan and globally? Okay. Thank you.
All right, hello everyone. Or should I say good morning or good afternoon or good evening? I don't know what time you're watching this. But my name is Marcel. My family name is Van Amelsvoort. It's a little bit long. And I'm going to give a short Toefl style lecture on a topic that we use in second year. I'm also going to explain a little bit about our first year English program as well, right at the end. Okay, so let's get started. The topic today is washoku. And particularly, what is so special about washoku? All right, and I want you to listen to my lecture and see how much you can understand. You ready to go? All right, let's give it a try. We often hear that Japanese food is healthy. I've heard this many times from many different people. However, is it really? Why? Why is it healthy? What is healthy about Japanese food? And it's healthy compared to what? Compared to other foods? For example, what? All right, these are some questions that we need to answer. And we need to look a little bit more particularly at the specific reasons why Japanese food is healthy. All right. Of course, when we talk about Japanese food, we're not talking about all food that is served and sold and eaten in Japan. We're talking particularly about traditional food, what we often call washoku. More modern foods and popular foods such as ramen or curry and rice are actually not particularly healthy. This bowl of ramen, for example, has more fat and more salt than a Big Mac, and yet it's still very popular. So we can't say that all food bought and sold and served in Japan is healthy. We're talking about more traditional types of food. Traditional foods are often very beautiful. Look at how each dish is arranged by itself on a plate. It's just a feast for the eyes. But let's think about why Japanese food is unique and why it's healthy. And there are three very good reasons for this. The first reason is that there's an emphasis in Japanese cuisine on the ingredients. And I'll explain a little bit more what I mean by that in a moment. There's also an emphasis on balance and variety. And lastly, there's an emphasis on quality and education. The first of these is an emphasis on ingredients. And if we look carefully at this picture, what can we see? We can see a lot of different dishes or different food items, and each one is individually prepared and in its own section. There's a focus on high quality of ingredients and also natural flavors. The preparation techniques are used to bring out the natural flavor of the ingredients, and for that you need to have very high quality ingredients. How this is done and what is particularly unique about Japanese food is its use of dashi soup stock and to bring out the umami taste in individual ingredients. It also uses a variety of cooking methods which attempt to bring out the best flavor in those ingredients. We also find an emphasis on balance and variety, and these two are closely connected. If we take a look at this picture, we see a traditional New Year's osechi style table. And here we can see the tremendous variety that gets packed into these three boxes. It's very difficult even to count the number in these pictures. Each dish is individually presented, individually prepared, and each dish consists of ingredients which are highlighted through the cooking method or the use of dashi. And this balance is what is achieved through the variety. By having a wide variety of different dishes, a balance is achieved. And this is very much connected to nutrition. But this idea of balance and variety doesn't just occur with New Year's dishes. We can also see it in other aspects of the food culture in Japan. Take a look at this picture. We've got two images here. The top one is from a pizza chain in Japan. The bottom one is from a pizza chain in my hometown. And if you look carefully at these, what you can notice is that the top one, can you see the pizzas? They are emphasizing variety. On one plate, there are several different types of pizza. Now, you might not know this, but this is pretty unique to Japan. In my hometown, the emphasis is on quantity, the different sizes that you can get. Right? And particularly here, large trays of pizza, so extra large sizes that are not even available in Japan, usually anyway. Right? But this idea here shows the effect of the food culture and the way it goes through the whole food culture in the country. Another example is in drinks. Here we have a typical vending machine in Japan. This one features 25 different drinks. Here's a typical one from my hometown. It features only 10 drinks, and most of them are cola. And here we can see that this idea of variety really permeates through the food culture. The third point is an emphasis on quality and education. Take a look at the picture on the left. It's a classroom at a junior high school in Cambodia. The students are working together to make a traditional dish, a kind of soup. Look at the picture on the right. The young children are watching a professional chef show them how to cut up a fish. Each child is prepared and dressed for the occasion, and they're all watching carefully as the professional demonstrates how to do so. This shows part of the food education culture in Japan. It's not just that people like food and eat a wide variety of food. People are very careful about how to prepare and how to learn how to cook and how to pass these traditions on. And this we find in schools, in families, on TV, and in other places. So we can say that there's an emphasis on food quality, doing it right in Japan, but there's also an emphasis on food education. So why is Japanese food healthy? Well, it's healthy for the three reasons I mentioned. Lots of variety, emphasis on quality, and an emphasis on doing things right. But there's also less red meat and animal fat. And of course, lots of vegetables made with tasty dashi, and it's low in calories. And for these reasons, we can say that Japanese food is very healthy. Traditional Japanese food is very healthy. Thank you. So how much did you understand? That was the lecture. Let me go on now and talk a little bit about our first-year English program. Our first-year English program has also small classes. They're a little bit larger than our second-year classes, 17 to 20 students on average. Students study 4 times per week. There is reading, writing, presentations, and discussion done in all of our classes. And most students choose to go on a 1-month summer intensive to Cebu in the Philippines. For the course, you'll have 2 teachers. One teacher teaches writing. So you might have teacher A on Monday and Thursday, and another teacher teaches reading. So teacher B might teach you on Tuesday and Friday. We also do something called extensive reading. And extensive reading is a way of studying which is more enjoyable than many types of traditional studying techniques. We ask students to read a lot of easy books. And by reading easy books slowly and building up in the levels, we get students to achieve more reading power over the course of 2 years. So we ask our students to do extensive reading for 2 years in our program to build their reading power, which is a key part of doing well on tests and also improving your academic English. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I hope to see you at Fila. Bye.